Let's rock and roll.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lore Lords, episode
Hi.
20. We have Pat here.
Hi, I have to say something within the first few seconds of the episode. It's in my contract. I have to interrupt him every time.
Yeah. So there he is.
What's up?
It's episode 20 of Lore Lords. It's a big landmark event. So
Yeah,
we're here.
We've been doing it. We've done 20 full episodes now, which is wild and crazy. Ooh, that book.
Yep. There's
the book.
The book. The book is being shown.
I love the book.
We love the book.
Yeah, can we talk about the artwork real quick before we get started?
So our lovely resident artist, Super Pooper, made us a background art of a book based on the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker intro.
Which makes me very happy.
Yeah.
As we did an episode on Wind Waker 2. So.
Yeah. There's me and Pat back to back. Pat with a Triforce, because he only talks about Zelda ever.
True,
and then me with an Illuminati eye, because I only talk about conspiracies ever. So it's our old book of lore. This is going to be the background on the stream for a while. Maybe in the video you could throw it up just so people know what we're talking about. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe.
Well, maybe I'll put that effort in. No,
yeah, just a little bit.
No, I might even use this, for something too. At some point. But
yeah.
Eventually, imagine how cool it would be to one day actually have like an actual Lore Lords like book, like an actual book where it like goes over each episode. Not like it doesn't just have our scripts, but
yeah. Super Pooper was actually talking about doing like individual episode art with a little bit of my script, like in a book. That's
cool.
So maybe we'll see. But
she ended up including the stubble. I just noticed that.
Yeah,
I do
stubble's
have the
in
stubble
there.
On my... Yeah.
I love that my beard looks like the King of Red Lions.
Yes, it
does. Anyway, so today we're gonna do for our 20th Lore Lords. I have the biggest script I've ever written. Which is interesting because I actually didn't think I would for this topic because there is a lot to talk about. Tonight's topic, as you can see by the episode title, is Lake City Quiet Pills. It's kind of a lesser known internet mystery from like the 2010-ish era, and I had planned on doing this like way in the future, but one of our frequent listeners, Yeti Wrangler, wanted to hear about it, so here it is.
And I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, so this is going to be great for you to know.
Yes.
Because it is wild. This is a wild story to talk about. And because it's so long, I'm just going to jump in there because we got to get started.
Yeah, let's go.
So the story tonight, Lake City Quiet Pills. I've written I think it's 6 parts total that I've separated into, maybe 5. But our story begins back in a pretty dark place, in the depths of the past, in the depths of a website we all know called Reddit.
Oh, now, right, okay.
If you don't know what Reddit is, it's a news sharing site that allows anyone with an account to post anything they want with a pretty broad spectrum of categories, ranging from topics such as pictures, which can be anything, to almost insane levels of specificity, which is, I give a great example, 2008/2009 Chevy Silverado repair. So you can find a subreddit for basically anything.
Their tagline is dive into anything.
Yeah. So it's just if you want to get lost and want to see how specific it can get, click that random Reddit button on the homepage.
Oh yeah.
And just see where it takes you. 'Cause it'll take you to some crazy places. So today we're going into a deeper subreddit that, as of 2012, no longer exists. A rather unfortunate subreddit that is known as r/jailbait. Do you know about this?
I know what jailbait is, unfortunately.
Yeah. So this was a subreddit that was deleted from the website in 2012, as I said.
That's before I joined, so I feel good about this.
Yeah. So while not illegal, the subreddit was as close as you could get to being illegal. It was a place where people posted images of women who were all adults, but they were anything from actresses to porn stars who looked underage. And this basically made it a hive of the creepiest people on the internet.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, and they were publicly posting about it, so it was pretty just like, it was everyone on Reddit knew what it was. I remember knowing what it was because people talked about it so much.
I just knew these people existed, but I wasn't on Reddit at the time. So
Yeah, I was using Reddit, not a lot, like very rarely, only for very specific things that people would mention it. And then I remember really, I guess, figuring out about it when it got deleted because it was like a big news thing, which Anderson Cooper got it taken down because he did a CNN story on it in 2012. And that was kind of like that news piece on CNN is kind of what pushed Reddit to start moderating themselves and like really checking themselves and making sure these things didn't exist.
CNN is trying to destroy online news anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of their mission. But that was a good thing that happened.
But that one, I was about to say I was going to follow that up.
It's a diamond in the rough.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's not a bad one. Like good job, Anderson.
While we're beginning here, that's not actually the focus of tonight's episode. It's just kind of where it starts. We're telling the story of one Reddit moderator of this former subreddit under the username of Religion of Peace. Now, Religion of Peace would make a Reddit account in December 2007, and Religion of Peace was mostly known as the moderator of the Jailbait subreddit, but he was active all over the site and even had a bit of a reputation. Like, people knew the name Religion of Peace. He would post about legalizing marijuana, and he would also post an interest and apparent knowledge of assassination and military tactics. Yes, he would often state... What?
Did he actually know about this stuff, or was he just like neckbeard levels of nerd?
We're gonna question that in a moment.
Okay.
He would often state that there were things the legal system can't fix, and he would spend most of his time commenting on spammers, saying things like, quote, "You scum-sucking spammer, get the fuck off my internet," unquote.
Okay.
Now, their post history often included bashing socialism,
classic internet trope.
aggressively attacking people who would post from news sites such as the New York Times.
Right. Oh, that's still going on Twitter.
He would often express a rather expansive knowledge of military subjects.
That's still weird.
It's a weird thing. And they would often post about their history in warfare, and even at one point expressing details on what kind of piano wire can kill a man.
Oh, so, I think I've heard about that for some reason. I heard about some psychopath on the internet bragging about killing people with piano wire like 10 years ago.
He did once, so maybe it was the same person.
It might have been.
But
why does it sound so familiar to me?
Through his post history, we would learn a lot about his life. They claimed that they enlisted in the military, the U.S. military, at the age of 14 because they were typically larger than anyone for their age. And they claimed they were in the Battle of Normandy, but would say that they did not see any fighting because they were part of the Navy and all they did was carry and load shells.
An old-ass person.
Yes. They would respond to the question about their Normandy involvement by saying they were there, but they didn't see their first action until Jerusalem in 1947.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the U.S. was involved in the Israeli kind of founding in the Palestine War in the 1940s. So they would go into small rants about naval service in the Second World War. They would join the army to fight in Palestine for the Jerusalem War from 47 to 49. They said they would continue in the military until they retired in 1987 and would get a computer-related job, which he was very thankful for. In a post linking to a blogspot article about the origin of the CIA's assassination program, which highlighted stories in the 90s and the 2000s, he responded by saying they're off by 4 decades and would not elaborate any further.
Okay.
When he was asked about the legal system in one of his rants, he said there are some things the legal system can't fix, with a quote saying, "I can think of any number of criminal organizations that would benefit from a dose of Lake City quiet pills." When asked what that means, he never responded. But that's the first time we're going to hear that, which obviously is the name of the episode, so keep that in mind. This guy would come off basically as a creepy old internet uncle.
Right, yeah.
And while he never would break any laws or even Reddit guidelines, he would often defend Jailbait, saying it was a better place because it didn't post pictures of real kids that could be in danger.
Wow, what a
hero. What a hero. Yeah.
Like,
It's just The only defense you could possibly come up with. Like, there's no other option. You know what I mean? Like, it's the creepiest fucking place.
And that's like the thing you could say about literally any other porn subreddit.
Yeah,
too.
100%. 100%. Oh, it's
like,
not abusing
okay, buddy.
people. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Okay.
buddy. Yeah, sure, man.
So, now, here's the next part of this. In this timeline, Reddit, at this part of time, I should say, Reddit could not host images. You would have to use an outside website such as Image Shack or PhotoBucket.
No, PhotoBucket. Sorry,
But those, yeah, they're still around, I think. Those websites have no porn policies, though. So, Religion of Peace would end up running his own image hosting service to host all these photos.
Great.
The name of the photo was called This Old Guy's Image Host.
Well, at least he was on the nose about it.
Yeah, this would become home to dozens of porn images. Thousands, probably. But to keep in mind, they're all legal. It's all legal porn images. He would often refer to himself as an old guy around Reddit, which is likely why he came up with that name.
Sure.
So at this point, it's pretty easy to picture what this guy is, right? Like,
yeah, probably really sad, depressed, very angry, at the world.
Yeah, he's most likely some kind of right-wing style old military vet who managed to get online and yell at people across the internet.
And dare I say,
yeah,
like a pioneer of the neckbeards.
Oh, fully a neckbeard pioneer. That's a great way to put him. I wrote down here that he basically was an old man yelling "Get off my lawn" to kids on a digital lawn.
Right.
Like that's kind of like how he came up with.
It's pretty funny.
And he would be active on it for 2 years. So from 2007 to 2009, he was posting this stuff and moderating his Not Safe for Work subreddit. And then on July 17th, 2009, at 6:46 Greenwich Mean Time, the user Religion of Peace would make their last post complaining about spammers. 14 hours after Religion of Peace's last post, another account under the name 2-6, like the numbers 2-6, would post news of Religion of Peace's death. And the thread was titled, "The End of Religion of Peace, He Died Today." And this post was made on 1950 Greenwich Mean Time on July 17th, 2009, so the same day as his final comment. 2-6 explained in this post that he knew Religion of Peace and they met in the army, like he knew them in person, and Religion of Peace's real name was Milo. And he went into details about how he got rid of all his stuff. He would donate furniture and appliances to the neighbors and the rest of the Salvation Army. He mentioned every personal item that Milo had would fit in the trunk of his car.
Wow.
Which kind of enhances that image we had earlier of him being this sad old military vet guy who just like yells online all day and looks at like basically child pornography. Like, yeah. Anyway, so there's an important thing to note about this post. This is going to come in later. In this whole post, there was a ton of consistent spelling and grammar errors. One example was 2-6 posted the word didn't, D-I-D-N apostrophe T, as D-I-D apostrophe N-T.
Okay, yeah.
It's like every time he was spelled that way. And there's a couple other ones. Like he spelled tolerated as T-A-L-L-E-R-A-T-E-D. Like, and every time he would say it, it would be that way. There was never a correction, never auto-corrected. It was always spelled wrong.
So he was just like, okay, that's
just how we put rights. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stupid. But remember that's kind of how he typed. So this post of his death would reach a lot of people and have hundreds. I think it reached 2,000 comments. 2-6 clearly did not expect this kind of reaction and made a comment, which I have the quote of here. This is his exact comment. He said, "God damn, I didn't know so many people could like that, didn't sling a gun with him. Thank you. So I'm out of here now. I don't do stuff like you and Milo. Take care and keep the faith." Okay. And that would be his last post on that account on 2-6, for a little while. Until 2 days later. Where there's another post, which would be the final post of 2-6 ever. On Reddit, where he posted a message simply saying, "If you're interested, this is where Milo is now," and it was a link to Google Maps, which pointed to a pin near Round Top and Lake Heritage, Pennsylvania, which is just southeast of Gettysburg.
Okay.
This location was near a shopping mall, and 26 in the post claimed that this had been built on land that was once owned by Milo. And so people basically assumed this is where his ashes would be spread.
Right. Okay.
So, a Redditor posting about military knowledge and raging at spammers and trolls who moderated a sketchy subreddit that would soon be deleted and died, and some other creepy people on subreddit were sad about it, talking about it. Should be the end of a weird, simple little story.
Yeah,
But
I'm very interested to see where this goes.
this is just the beginning, because soon other Redditors who knew of the account from other subreddits start to notice things were being a little weird, and even think this was a hoax, and that they basically did what bored people do on the internet, which is dig really deep.
Yeah.
And this is now the beginning of the story of Lake City Quiet Pills.
Oh,
So-
now we're getting started.
Yes.
So that was like the. Okay,
This is the
prologue, got it.
prologue, the prelude to it. We have part 1, which I titled Connections, because this is when the connections, weird things are going to start being named. So, firstly, these deep divers went deep into the internet's past, and there existed a website that had mostly been forgotten. Very few people here probably even remember it existed. It was called Fark.com. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. No, I haven't.
Yeah, so
Kind of
Fark.com.
a funny name.
Yeah, Fark, Fark.com.
Fark.
Was the precursor to Reddit, and even a precursor to the well-known Reddit precursor, Dig.
I didn't know Dig.
Yeah, so Fark was before Dig, and it was a site like Reddit where you could just post any news or whatever you want and comment on them. It was very archaic and never got updated, so it got just abandoned in the depths of the internet.
Sure.
But our deep internet investigators would uncover that there is an account on this website under the username Angel2-6.
Okay.
And you can see the similarity in the name already. There's 26
Right,
and
26.
Angel 26. So Angel 26's name is spelled Angel correctly, capital TWO-SIX. So it's spelled out, not the numbers.
Okay. Not the numbers.
And this account was created 7 years before the post about the death of Religion of Peace. And this account had an email address registered to it that read angel.2.6@lakecityquietpills.com.
Oh.
So,
that thing again.
yep, we're here again. And on Fark, Angel 26 would offer ways to break people in interrogations with a quote such as, "From past experience, placing the bastard's head in a sack with hungry rats or leeches works nicely," end quote. Other posts he made, that's, got it, okay. Other posts he made would often relate to military affairs such as guns and rifles and pistols, ammunition, and other similar topics. Much like Religion of Peace, this user would often comment on military service, but often focusing on the violent aspects of it, such as shooting people.
Right.
That's like what they would talk about. Which, okay, so I don't know how many vets you know, but they
Quite a
usually
few,
don't.
actually.
They usually don't talk about that.
No. They, in fact, that's the part they talk about. They like talking
No.
about the least.
So there's two things that could be at play here. It's fake, number one, which is something it's very easy to lean into. It's fake. Or number two, they're a psychopath.
Right. Which
Now,
is also a big
yeah,
thing.
it's always a possibility. So as we go further, we'll see which direction we lean in on these people. So each of these posts made by Angel 26 had a motto attached to them on the bottom, like he would sign the post, right?
Right.
And each one of them reads, "Dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to lousered bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968.
I'm going to assume Lake City Quiet Pills are bullets now.
Well, let's look into this, maybe. Another important thing that was connected around this time was the website Religion of Peace used to host, which we talked about earlier, Old Guys Image Hosting. The URL for this website, while it had that name, was www.lakecityquietpills.com.
Okay.
So
that sounds like the old website that 6'2" guy had.
yeah, so it's the same site, likely. And this
Yeah.
phrase now we're starting to see, it's coming up a lot more, and people looking into this, like, what is this? Like, what does this mean? And now people are realizing this person definitely knew this Milo character who knows Religion of Peace, and maybe it wasn't a hoax. Like, because these posts, by the way, have those same grammar mistakes. The same,
Yeah, I was
it
gonna
was
ask.
spelled exactly the same as the way he typed on Reddit. So it's him, like no one else. It's specifically this guy. So they're thinking, like, maybe this was the same person. And what does Reddit do? What do 4chan people do, but dig even deeper?
Right, yeah.
So our cyber sleuth searched on. I made a very conscious effort to call them something different every time.
Cyber sleuths.
So now they're the cyber sleuths, and they are digging in the internet, and they discovered through scanning, basic just kind of Google searching, other message boards and sites that had the name Angel 2-6. A first example, Yahoo Answers. There's an Angel 2-6 who would often post with interest in crafts and DIY work.
Okay.
ZBrush, which is a digital sculpting tool that came out in 1999, had an account under the username Angel 2-6, which showed they may have some interest in technical art, maybe, or at least they own the software. And finally, the site we mentioned earlier, Dig. On Dig, there was an account made in 2007 named Angel 2-6 that was active there, and there's something very interesting about this. They would sign their posts, but instead of a motto, it was signed as if it was signed by Religion of Peace.
So Angel 2-6 would say that at the end?
Yeah, it would be like he would write a post under the username Angel-26 and then sign it as if it was signed by a Religion of Peace.
So is there a conspiracy that this is the same person basically now?
Yes, maybe.
Oh, okay, right.
So all these posts again still had those spelling mistakes. The DID-NT, the tolerated. Every time they would spell no as in KNOW, they said no, like NO.
Yeah.
With the same typing style, it's pretty easy to pin all this as the same person, but the Religion of Peace signing, like you mentioned, throws a pretty weird angle on it.
That's super weird.
Because he didn't type like that, so it's interesting that that's coming into play. But, yeah, we don't know what that means. So theories began to form about these people. Were they the same person? Was it one person faking their death and not realizing the internet is just good at finding things out and that they would be discovered?
Right.
Was it two people using the same account? Was it really an old vet using a username as maybe a common phrase amongst their circle of friends? So someone just signed a post with it, you know?
Sure.
Like, we don't know, and we never will know the answer to that, unfortunately. But this is getting really weird, and people were starting to think this might be some kind of either big hoax or like a game online with like breadcrumbs.
Like an ARG?
Yeah, exactly. With breadcrumbs being left throughout these different websites. So they kept digging into these accounts, and people were looking for answers as to who they are and what this whole Lake City Quiet Pills thing is and what it means. But now we're going to take a rather wild turn with a simple discovery made by this ragtag digital mystery gang, which is part 2, the website. So, months after 2-6 posted the death of Religion of Peace, several Redditors remained convinced that this was a hoax, and they were obsessed with proving it. So, they thought it would be some kind of ploy to make a sketchy mod disappear on Reddit and maybe have an account remade that wouldn't be associated with jailbait, because it's gross.
Yeah.
Which is something, yeah, like I could see that, you know, like, oh, yeah, totally. I need to not do this anymore. We're going to be someone else now.
I'm changing my ways, yeah.
Yeah, they even believe that this was maybe a publicity stunt to boost the popularity of the website LakeCityQuietPills.com. But the digital dicks were on it, and they were looking deep into the HTML code of the website itself for clues as to what must be going on. So this website's just an image hosting site, right? It's like, you know, nowadays everyone uses Imgur, whatever you want to call it. It's just, if you go to that website, just imgur.com, it's just a sheet of images. That's what this website looked like. Which, for the record, it's gone now, so you can't go to LakeCityQuietPills.com. This is a long deleted website.
That's a shame.
But you might be able to Wayback Machine it, because I've seen images of it. And I'm only assuming it's a Wayback Machine they're looking at it. It's just porn. Just images of porn. Just pages and pages of porn. Laid out like an image host site, right?
Right.
So they started looking into the HTML codes, and they found something. The first thing they found in the code was a line saying, dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to lousy bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968. So that's the same thing on that post that was signed. So it's like a motto. They found it in the HTML code of the website. Like deep in the code, too.
That's so weird.
So they had finally found something, a message in the code only meant for people who would know how to open a website's HTML, which back then wasn't super common. I mean, a lot of people still don't know how to. But even if you do, you might not know where to look for things or what to tell as code and what's not.
Sure.
So these people thought, oh, we'd found some gold, like we found something. But little did they know they just stumbled upon the jackpot of secrets. And directly under the motto will be random bits of information as well as acronyms that we still don't fully understand. But here's an example of a message posted under here.
Okay.
Quote, Shade is maintaining the calendar Shade is maintaining calendar and access to the file dump. Angel has the job postings for EU and Asia. We aren't sending anyone to ME. No one. Do not ask for listings. End quote.
Okay.
So let's break that down. Yeah, let's break that down a little bit. We've never heard the name Shade, so that's new.
Right.
Secondly, Angel. That could be Angel 26.
Right.
Because we just learned a lot about them and where their posts are, so someone's referred to as Angel. Next we see EU and Asia. So that's pretty obvious. I think Europe and Asia.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, next one is people are still arguing about this today, which is ME. From other context of this message and what we're going to learn soon, I'm pretty sure it means Middle East.
Oh, that would make sense.
Along with many others who know this
like,
mystery.
Maine?
Yeah, a lot of people are on the same boat as me that it means Middle East. And like I said, as we go on, this will make more sense. So they saw this and they're like, whoa, what is this? What is this? Like, what does this website mean? So they kept looking deeper into the code. And they found more messages. And these messages were starting to look pretty sketchy. And some of these guys looking at this actually dropped out. Like, I'm not doing any more of this. Because they were worried about their safety.
Right.
But with how deep and nonsensical these messages were found, there was even code in between some of the words. So, like, they were really hidden. It was clear that these were secret. These were not meant for public viewing. Like, this was hidden in the website's HTML code. And they would be comments would be similar to the ones listed above, listing names and then details on who had what info, usually mixed with HTML code in between, like I mentioned. And there were other messages that were job postings, and these are some examples of them. First, quote, immediate need, 8 to 10 Chinese/Korean, fluent Korean/dialect/accent details after contact, 12-week half pay, sequester on refusal, end quote.
Okay, that's weird.
Next quote, 2 ground types, fluent Farsi and Arabic French, no papers, no problems, end quote.
Oh, what is happening?
Third, need formed group 8 to 10, simple op, deliv bonus, gentleman's agreement, insurance, immediate need, end quote.
What is happening?
So that is extremely suspicious, and I can tell you can tell that's weird as well.
Because they're just like asking for people, especially from like other people, like they're asking for people from different places on the planet.
So
like,
this immediately makes me think of mercenary and assassin work.
That would be fucking crazy.
So they thought the same thing. That's why people ditched. Like, I don't want to get into this. Like, what am I digging into? This is sketchy as hell. They're like, think about it. They need someone who speaks Chinese Korean, 8 to 10 people with a fluent Korean dialect and accent. And then, like, 2 people on the ground need to speak fluent in Farsi. No papers, no problems. Like, that's
fucking, the no papers, no problems thing is like, okay.
Yeah, that's weird. So people were starting to think they stumbled on some hidden job board for maybe like a PMC or some other network of vets that do mercenary hitman work. It could also, however, be something a lot less severe, like defense contracts or bodyguard jobs. But the code was full of these listings. There was so many. They were everywhere. That's
so crazy.
If you knew where to look in the code, you could find them. They started to learn the pattern of how they started putting these messages in. Right. And like they weren't like, I wouldn't say they were encrypted, but they were definitely hidden amongst the HTML code.
That's so wild.
And there's 2 acronyms that kept getting used that I think are also suspicious. That we don't know fully what they mean are CCW, which is used by police and NRA members as concealed carried weapons permit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then W/W. This has 2 meanings. People think it's got 2 different meanings, which is wants or warrants. Because some things will say, like, China, no WW, meaning, like, no warrants or wantings. Like, you'd have to be not wanted or have a warrant out for you. The other thought is it means wet work.
Oh.
So...
For those who don't know what wet working is,
go on. Explain what wet work is.
Well, isn't it? It's basically assassinations, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The wet work applies to work where blood will be spilled.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, you're just gonna help out at a fish market.
No. You're gonna get wet with something red. Yeah. No.
You're gonna clean pools?
Maybe. With? No. Yeah. So it wouldn't take long before these digital delvers would share this code to others, wondering if they also thought it was weird. And everyone basically who read this was like, they've never seen anything like this. People across different professions were like, I've never seen this written out before. This is extremely suspicious. And it, at this point, had been several months since the death of Religion of Peace, aka Milo, posted on Reddit.
Right.
But the people were kind of wondering if he was some kind of job. People now are wondering if he was like a job lister for like this kind of like military network or something.
Oh.
So
like he was the one who was actually on the internet and posting stuff.
Yeah, he could have been like the man in the chair, kind of, for this operation. Yeah. And now we're going to move on to part 3, which I have named Lake City Quiet Pills, because we're going to go actually into what this means. So, people started, these digital dicks, as I mentioned before, looked into the origin of the site's name, and they really want to know what this means, and this phrase is being used too much for it to just mean nothing. And before long, something was discovered. Based out of Independence, Missouri, there's a large business, the Lake City Ammunition Plant. So the little history in this place, it was made in 1941 by Remington Arms. And, yep, you did call 100%. And it would be, this Remington Arms factory would make arms for the U.S. military in the Second World War. Today it has been renamed to the Lake City Arsenal. And it is still in operation. And not only is it operating, it is the #1 producer of ammunition for the U.S. military, making 1.4 billion rounds of ammunition each year.
That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of boom booms, baby.
Yeah. So we don't know if these people had a connection to Lake City Arsenal or if the name just sounded good to them, but it's pretty plain at this point that the pills are bullets.
Yeah.
So there's that. With this uncovered, stuff was starting to make sense. Like, they started to think this might be a PMC, which, if you don't know, it's a private military company.
Yeah.
That works through this website to get jobs and operatives connected through different people. Hidden messages were being discovered by these Silicon Sherlocks, and they would begin to monitor the website's code for new postings actively. And also, just to be clear, all this internet investigation is happening in like 2012 is when this was discovered. So they're looking back. I'm putting this in chronological order to make more sense. But like, this is all people looking at it kind of towards the end of this whole story and looking back in the past for these messages.
Meanwhile, I was playing League of Legends in Dan's dorm room.
Meanwhile, I was playing League of Legends in my apartment in Simi Valley till 4 a.m. every night.
Played against each other.
I was just gonna say there is a high chance that happened. There's a high chance. It was every night for like that whole year.
Oh yeah, definitely Dan and I too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, back to the topic. So soon they found a post, and it said, "I am sorry to tell you that old Milo died yesterday. He went quiet and calm, not like we all figured. I gave the fat mangy cat to the girl next door. No services or nothing, you know Milo. I'm taking his ashes back to where his farm was. Close to it anyway. There's a mall where his place was. So hoist a few rounds for the old man. Remember what he said. Keep with the man who's got your back." End quote.
That's so culty. That's like such a fucking...
That's so military. That is such a military line to say. Like, that's such a soldier line. And the post also has those same typos that we talked about. It's a bit better written, but it still typoed things in that same way Angel26 posted, so it's most likely him who wrote the post. More than 2 months later, on September 30th of 2009, another message showed up that said, "For those who asked, I bricked Milo's iron key the same day. All is well." You know what an iron key is?
No, I don't.
So an iron key is an encrypted military flash drive or hard drive. Usually they're flash drives that they wear on their neck with their dog tags.
Okay.
And they contain a lot of information. They're usually huge hard drives, and they can have a lot of stuff involved in them. And based on the fact that he said it was bricked, that leads us to believe they had a lot of incriminating evidence on it.
Most definitely.
What these job postings are, it makes us think maybe you had some contract details of military operations that can't be publicly made, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's that put into the mix of things.
Damn.
the next message appeared just 2 weeks later that said, Milo's will cleared probate. Surprise, Milo was loaded. Spelled O-L-O-D-E-D. Email Shade if we sent you out to 2005 to 2009. Shade will have checks, C-H-E-K-S, cut for you. Amount, M-A-M-O-N-T, is by how many times, not by pay total. Small share is 3 to 4K. So, Milo left behind savings. And
I guess so.
By the sounds of it, a lot of it.
Quite a bit.
Considering they were looking, these posts we saw earlier were looking for 8 to 10 people, and it hints that it's being distributed to a large network, right?
Right.
If 3 to 4K is the small share, it makes you wonder what the large share is. Like, that's...
God, I don't know.
Yeah, so... To spend this much money makes us believe this network of people is probably pretty close to each other as well, at least enough to warrant sending that much money to them.
Yeah.
And after this, the site would go quiet for a while until the end of January 2010, where a message posted seemingly in the same way by Angel26 appeared, reading, Happy New Year, everyone. We're having a birthday party for the old man on the 19th. Party starts at 1500 at the usual. Send your RSVP to Shade. FYI, we're booking a room for 3 days if anyone coming from out of area overnight for locals. Come hoist one for Dutch Milo. End quote.
Dutch Milo.
Yeah, Dutch is such a military name, too. That's such a call sign. So it seems like they're having a pretty big party. So that's cool, but I want you to literally forget everything we just talked about for a moment, because this is going to be one of the biggest sidetracks I've ever taken. But it has to be talked about. And this is part 4, Mahmoud al-Mabo.
That sounds like a different area in the country.
Al-Mabouh, I think is how you say it, but whatever. In 1970s, a man named Mahmoud al-Mabouh was a Muslim Brotherhood member, and he would enter some legal trouble and ended up going to prison in Egypt, and he would be released in the mid-1980s, and he would become associated with and becoming a high-ranking member of a group known as Hamas.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, just for people listening, I can tell you do, but if you don't know what Hamas is, it is a military organization that petitions for the creation of a Palestine state. And many of them consider it to be a terrorist organization. But that being said, it has been serving as the governing body of the Gaza Strip for more than a decade. Yep. And over the next 2.5 decades, Mahmoud would earn a reputation within Hamas because he would claim credit for killing 2 Israeli soldiers in 1989, making him Israel's most wanted, as well as rising to the top of the most wanted in the intel community of Jordan.
Right, yeah.
So by the mid-2000s, he was... Have you heard this name before, by the way? Because I hadn't. One? This then the Mahmoud al-Mabouh. Yeah, so I hadn't, but I looked into it more. This is a big deal when this is happening. By the mid-2000s, he was serving as a chief logistics and weapons procurement specialist for the military wing of Hamas.
Okay.
Yes, so he's pretty high up there in a
guns, organizes guns.
Yeah, in a sketchy organization, yes. Yeah, and he also plays a vital role in the start of growing relationships with Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Okay. So this made him a pretty big target, and he had multiple attempts on his life made. Firstly, a car bomb would go off in the car behind his, which he would survive, and that's all the information we have on that whole event, because it was never really published in the West, only in the Middle East. The second attempt, however, got a bit more attention because there was actually a GQ magazine article written about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the quote from that is, the elite team orchestrating the kill tried to poison Mahmoud al-Mabouh in November 2009 in Dubai. The unknown toxin possibly slipped into a drink or placed on fixtures in a hotel room, left him mysteriously ill but not fatally. Al-Mabouh would recover from the illness without knowing he'd been poisoned.
Wow.
So
iron stomach, baby.
Yeah, so just, I mean, you know, the poisoner didn't do a great job of poisoning him. He got ill, but he didn't know he was poisoned at the time. And because of that, he continued to live his life with his normal security precautions. Which he lived in Syria, for the record. So he was in Syria. But he would travel around the whole Middle East, conducting business on behalf of Hamas. And he would use fake names and papers, obviously, as well as traveling with a contingent of guards. But unbeknownst to him, however, he had a major problem. There had been a security breach on his computer. the computer also that he used to do his travel arrangements, it was hit by a virus that we know as a Trojan horse.
Huh? Yep.
So if what these do is allow another computer to fully access your computer. That's what a Trojan horse is.
Yeah.
So people were able to see his entire dealings and travel records as well as his travel plans. And in early January 2010, Al-Mabou would book a flight to Dubai and arrange for hotel accommodations for 2 days. Now, this trip was very rare because he would not be traveling with guards because they would arrive a day after him. Now, this left him alone in a foreign nation for 24 hours. And he, sure enough, would arrive in Dubai on January 19th, 2010, alone and under a fake name with no guards. Earlier that day, 24 men and women arrived in Dubai using fake names and passports from all over the world, and on their own began coordinating the efforts to track Al-Mabou. The operation was led by 3 coordinators under the known fake names of Gail Follard, Kevin Daverson, and Peter Elvinger. These men and women had taken 5 trips to Dubai previously to survey the area. At 3 p.m. local time that day, Al-Mabou would arrive in Dubai, and from the moment he landed, he was followed by a network of men and women who were operatives of this same group. Operatives also were already in the lobby of every hotel in the area to ensure that they would know where he was staying. Multiple times, these men and women would be seen entering restrooms to change outfits and even wigs. Footage also shows Al-Mabou arriving to the Al Bustan Rotana Hotel, where 2 men were standing in the lobby in tennis gear holding their tennis rackets, chatting.
Okay.
As he made his way in, one of these men would report on an electronic device, and the other operatives in the area would begin to converge on the hotel. The other man wearing the tennis gear would... Yeah, this is getting super Tom Clancy.
Yeah, right?
The other man wearing the tennis gear would follow Al-Mabou to his room, learning he was staying in room 230, and then he pretended to return back to his room. Upon learning the room number, one leader under the fake name of Peter Elvinger makes a phone call from a nearby hotel requesting room 237, directly across from 230, and he was given it.
What a coinkydink.
Soon, these operatives began one by one gathering in room 237. Al-Mabou would leave the hotel and go to a mall, where coverage of him is spotty, but during this time, the operatives would hack into the electronic lock on his door and gain access to it. You can see on one of the footages of security cameras of a guest walking up, and another operative pops out and distracts him, fake dropping something, until the hack is completed.
Classic old,
yeah.
oops, sorry,
Yeah,
oh god.
literally exactly what happens. Like he bumps into someone, he's like, oh, my coffee got on your jacket, I'm so sorry, that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Al-Mabou would return at 8:30 p.m. with no suspicions and enter his room to be greeted by a handful of people inside.
And there was a surprise party. Surprise!
Yeah, they were just a happy birthday, you made it here.
Birthday, you made it.
But, I mean, while the party was probably pretty cool, 20 minutes later, the camera footage only showed those people leaving and going back to room 237 and not Al-Mabou.
Well, it was his room, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I guess he just went to bed.
Exactly.
Within moments, they left their hotel one by one with their belongings, and within the next 4 hours, every single one of these operatives would be out of Dubai on flights around the world. The next morning, 12 hours later, the body of Al-Mabou would be discovered by the hotel staff. The staff noted that the door had been bolted from the inside, and the police determined that the death had been of natural causes.
That's not true.
So keep in mind, the hotel staff doesn't know who, the investigators don't know who this is. He's using a fake name. So they don't know he's some high-profile, like, leader of a questionable terrorist organization. An autopsy later would reveal that, guess what? It wasn't a natural death.
What?
Yeah, I know, weird.
They said it was.
Super weird, right? They found out he had been dosed with a drug known as succinylcholine, Succinylcholine. I don't know. Okay. But I do know it's a muscle relaxing, so I looked up what it actually is. It's like you have to get it from a hospital, basically, but it's a muscle relaxant for surgery.
They chilled him out.
Yeah, so this paralyzed him fully, but it meant he was conscious. They also discovered he was electrocuted.
Well, that's mean.
And then they likely discovered that he was smothered by a pillow until he died. Yeah, so they found out all this information a little too late because, as we said, the door was locked inside and those operatives were gone in 4 hours. So them thinking it was natural cause was even more delaying to start looking for something suspicious. So these people had been long gone. And all this information we know is all watchable online. I watched the whole video. It's a 27-minute long video of this whole event. You can just find it. It's all the security camera footage of this hotel. Yeah, you can see the people. You see the guy, the target. You see the whole thing happen. Of course, there's no in-room cameras, but you see all the movements. Again? 2010.
2010, right.
Yeah.
My graduation year. I graduated high school that year.
He didn't.
Yep.
He graduated life, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
They did find these people, though, in the cameras, of course, and were able to track them and find them where they use their passports and such.
Right.
And the passports, of course, would be found belonging to the UK, Ireland, Australia, France, and Germany. So those were the 5 countries that were dispersed among these people, and they would all be discovered to be fake.
Well, we knew
that. But what that did is drag these nations into this whole investigation. They all got pulled in, and this was a huge pain in the ass for all these countries.
Oh, it sounds like it, but at the same time, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, especially because dealing with the Middle East is such like a thing, you know? Like it's something you kind of barely touch.
It's very hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because you don't want to get involved in the crazy, especially with an organization like a leader of Hamas. That's dark. That's bad territory to be working in.
Oh, yeah. Again, Middle East in general, that it's been at war for thousands and thousands of years. Don't touch it.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place.
Dangerous place.
So that was one thing. Another thing that would be discovered is many of these operatives would pay in cash, but a few of them did use prepaid cards under the brand Payoneer. It's a type of prepaid card. I don't even know if it's around anymore, but it's a U.S. based prepaid card to the United States. Okay. And it's rumored that the CEO of Payoneer had direct ties to Israeli intelligence. So keep that in mind. The Dubai police state the assassination was likely ordered by Mossad, which is Israel's intelligence service, and they denied it. And their response was, they were, quote, watching too many James Bond movies, unquote. That's all they ever said. Almost mocking.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, like, no. That's kind of like how they responded. Like, so basically, it's okay. So 18 operatives have been named, and all these names are fake with no background, so it doesn't mean anything. Right. And it basically put the investigation to a complete halt. But regardless, these 18 identities have been risen to the top of Interpol's most wanted. But again, that wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. And soon the other nations determined that these passports, unsurprisingly, were fake. And the big discovery was that Irish investigators determined that these were not only fakes, but they were Israeli passports that were made fake.
Ooh.
So Australia got very upset because they were dragged into this, and they started yelling at Israel politically and rising tensions with Israel. And Israel was like, hey, United States, we need help. And the United States is like, oh, no.
Yeah,
we're not touching this with a 10-foot pole.
That honestly sounds like it's like Israel's like a teenager being like, oh, I'm not paying attention. And, oh, Dad, help me. And America's like, nope.
Yeah. So the United States designated the United Arab Emirates as the nation to take care of this whole situation. Like, you're leading the investigation. Go for it, champs.
To the Saudis?
Yeah. So you know what this means?
They don't care.
Not only that, but the U.S. would never have to hand over the details of these Payoneer cardholders and who paid for them, where the money came from. So this could have shed light on the entire operation, and the U.S. just said no and hid it away.
Huh.
So potential U.S. involvement as well. Hard to say. But Israel and the U.S. looking pretty bad in the situation. The next development would be in June of 2010 when a man named Brodsky was found matching one of the photos of the passports and was soon extradited to Germany. He was arrested in Poland, by the way. And he was extradited to Germany to stand trial for the crimes of assassination. The first day he was in jail. Within an hour, he was released on bail and would never be seen again. So that was the last development ever in this case to this day. Nothing has been ever progressed.
That's pretty. That's a hard stop.
Yeah. It's just so this is one of the most high profile assassinations of the modern era. Like it was a huge target. It was taken out. No one was caught for it. It's a complete mystery of who carried out or funded it.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah, I think we were probably a little too young and out in our own worlds at the time. But like,
I definitely had my head.
But like looking it up, like from that time, there is so many articles about it, like tons of them. So like, it was all over the news when it happened.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I did. I was definitely like focusing on what am I gonna do in college and stuff.
Yeah, so like, exactly. We weren't in the mindset, but I guess back then it was a big deal. Like I remember, what was it, 2020 January, right before COVID, when the Iranian general got killed in the airstrike.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like that was like, that didn't have as much coverage as this did. No. Like this.
But that was still a big deal.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like, that was a big deal. Like, remember how big of a deal that was, and like how we were like people were freaking out about it, like, oh, World War III is coming, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That didn't even get as much coverage as this. So this was a huge case. It was all over the news for a long time. And then, of course, it just faded away because nothing happened. There was no resolution for it. So, now, why did I even talk about that, right? Like, kind of weird. Just kind of out there. So, LakeCityQuietPills.com.
Right.
Someone found another message that was about Milo, a.k.a. Religion of Peace, their birthday party that we mentioned earlier. And the message stated the party would start at 1500, roughly the time period that al-Mabouh was flying into Dubai. Another message would be sent out the day before the assassination took place. Like prior messages, this was hidden deep within the HTML code of the website and had even more coding between it, making this even harder to find. And it read as follows. We have 38 rooms at Marriott, 46. Shade has keycards for local, pick up at party. Give travel names to desk and that's it. No IDs needed since we're covering the bill. Keep the room service under 500, okay? The phones are not secure. Bus from Hotel Leafs, Leafs, at 13:30. Car service vouchers for return trip when you're ready to crash. Don't DUI, in all caps at 3 exclamation points.
This literally just sounds like a bunch of ex-military people who started up like a fucking assassination firm. And they went out and killed that guy.
I mean, so all those other job postings were before this. So this has been going, who the fuck knows what this is still.
Right.
But now, this is a pretty weird sounding party. 38 is a lot of rooms.
That is a lot of rooms.
I'm guessing Marriott 546 is a Marriott, an address or number. There is a large Marriott in Dubai. It is not associated with the number 46. So that could also just be a code maybe for something else. No one has ever been able to find out what Marriott 46 means, as there's never been a location given in these, places. But it may be these 38 rooms were spread across multiple hotels at Dubai, perhaps because you don't know which one you're going to be at for maybe reasons.
That's true too.
Yeah.
And it could have also been like they booked that many rooms because they just didn't know where he was going to.
Yeah, like I mentioned in the story, there was operatives in the lobby for every hotel.
Yeah.
And then once the call was made, they're all seeing the security cameras leaving the hotels at the same time and then meeting at the hotel that the guy was at. So they had people in every hotel in the city. So travel names seems an awful lot like fake identities.
Yeah.
So this is not a normal birthday party, obviously.
You're not just celebrating an old man pervert's birthday.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention phone lines aren't secure. That's not something you worry about at a birthday party.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is shouting about no DUIs. So that can be taken in a few ways. Firstly, it seems a little weird to remind adults not to drink and drive, but maybe not, because it does fucking happen all the time, obviously.
It does happen all the time. And honestly, a lot of a big association with ex-military people, especially violent ex-military people, is alcoholism.
So
that they have addictions. It's a sad thing, actually.
It's a sad thing. It's a real thing, but it's kind of weird to say. So maybe maybe that's a code, or maybe it's just kind of a warning to not get entangled with the authorities.
Right.
Don't get cops involved in this. Don't drink and drive.
That could be a very and that's a very safe way to say it, because
because
of all things, drinking and driving, it's not a good thing to do, but it's not like killing somebody, even though they
Yeah.
totally killed that guy.
Saying avoid the cops is a bit more suspicious than saying don't drink and drive. You know, that could be don't DUI could be a code for like avoid the
Well,
cops.
because also they're talking about going to a party, so it makes a lot of sense that there's the idea of having alcohol there is implied. So it's like, oh, don't DUI, so like call an Uber.
100%. Yeah.
But instead it's don't talk to cops. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was that post, and there would be no activity on the website for the next couple of weeks. And it continued just to be used as an image hosting site, mostly for porn. Again,
it's so funny. Like most stuff on the internet is porn, so it's like, yeah, all they needed to do is hide under some porn.
Yeah, just throw a bunch of porn up there, get people randomly on internet sites like Reddit to just share porn to your website to keep adding on to the pile that you won't be found under kind of situation. Yeah,
it's so like they just rely on lonely people on the internet looking for something to tug off to, and there they go.
You build your own cover, basically.
Yeah,
exactly. The world builds the cover for you, I should say.
Which is fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah, but another message was
clever,
found.
Smart as hell, super smart.
Yeah, it is super clever. Which that's military thinking.
Oh, definitely.
2 weeks later, another message was posted that said "party bills," and it would read here. I have the exact quote. Here is the final for the party. Hotel rooms 48241, limo 6080, bus 569, bar bill 18890, food 8030, dancers 8300, misc tips 850, misc expenditures 2840, med supplies 180, quote, or in parentheses, Fat Tommy and Stu are okay, in parentheses. Total 94080. You all did Dutch Milo proud. Thanks. End quote. So that
picked up some girls after, huh?
Yeah. So a lot of people think that this is just all code, basically. Like this is like guns, ammunition, transport, medical supplies is of course a weird thing to have on a party bill list. Like
hey, it's nice to have some Pedialyte and some Band-Aids. People banging their knees when they're drunk and they need to rehydrate with some Pedialyte.
Yeah, but it's like, this all very much could be a code for something.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Good job. We spend money on girls. Wink, wink. The girls are like grenades.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's pretty much a lot of people think. Some people in the military have, in fact, said that dancers is a term for explosives.
Oh, my God. God, I'm nailing it.
So... I tried looking up this quote, and I saw a couple people posting, and someone's like, "Hey, I was an ex-soldier in." I think they said they were German. They were German military ex, and they're like, "We used the term dancers for grenades and explosives a lot because they danced before they blew up," kind of thing. Yeah. And like people are like, "Oh, that could be it." Like that's another way to put it in. So. Maybe
using I'd be interesting to like go. I mean, this would take obviously a ridiculous amount of time, but if you go through all the different nicknames for weapons, ammo, and other supplies that military people use in all the different militaries, I guarantee you'd probably find all of those things you named.
Yeah,
in different
100%.
Like that one was German, one of them was American, one of them was Israeli, one of them was Japanese. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, it'd probably be so deeply coded, it'd be so hard to figure out.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like these again. This just sounds like a group of ex-military people. Really
no, it's just adding up. Like everything's kind of coming together, like as this thing, and this is just happening literally, timing the exact moment where these operatives showed up in this city is where this party started on the same day at the same minute. You know, like that's kind of weird.
Pretty suspicious, yeah.
So over the next few months, strange hidden job postings would continue to appear. I have two examples here. Quote, to business/security, non-conus, I don't know what that means, NONCONUS. Maybe non-conspicuous, I don't know. Fluent French required. Another quote is, too light surveil, no US W/W, no Mex W/W. End quote. So this is where people think it means warrants and wants, because they're saying like you can't do the job if you're wanted or have a warrant out for you in America or Mexico.
Right. Okay.
Like maybe that kind of thing.
I mean, it could just be like warrant wanted or something like that.
Yeah, like you have to go through like security somewhere with a real ID, so like you can't take someone wanted. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, and you know that thinking about it now. Thinking that WW just stands for wet work is too obvious. You know what I mean? Like it's almost too much. Like they wouldn't want it to be like we're killing people. Like
yeah. Yeah, maybe.
I guess that makes more sense.
But it also makes sense with wet work in that description because it says to light surveil, no U.S. wet work, no Mexico wet work. So maybe it's like a recon mission. You're not going to get your hands dirty.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
Like, you're just walking around in America. It's going to be in America and Mexico. So you're, like, maybe, like, crossing the border to Juarez or something, but you're not shooting.
Sure.
Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're just keeping an eye on something, right? Okay.
So, like...
Okay, maybe.
You know? They both make sense.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're
it's again...
I just feel like it's too obvious, but maybe at this point they're like, we're under porn and encryption.
Yeah, so it's like we're kind of hard to find, so just code it out.
Just say www. Yeah, that's fair.
So this would keep being posted every few days. There would more job postings to show up until the spring of 2010, 2 months after the assassination, because this is when Redditors started researching this thing. This is when we were talking about people looking into it. This all started in 2010 in the spring. So this has been people scrolling through the past up until this point. Like, people discovered this in 2010, started looking through the code, and then they started posting about it on Reddit. Started posting these hidden messages saying, like, what does this mean? Is this weird? People are like, I don't know, talking about it. Then people started linking it up to the assassination of Al Mabouch for the first time. And on the same hour that happened, the website's code is completely changed and encrypted.
Oh. Okay.
So people went back to look at it. It was all gone and under encryption. Like, messages were clearly there because they weren't HTML code, but they were encrypted.
Right.
And they would get close to decoding it, and it would entirely change again.
Oh.
So, a couple months after, the site moved to a new host and then was deleted.
So they got discovered, and they just yeeted it out.
So that's the end of the story of the mystery of Lake City Quiet Pills. I have my final part 6, which is my thoughts and notes about this whole thing. What I believe, like I do all the time. I like to wrap it up with my kind of idea.
Of course.
So, let's go into some things here. People to this day think it's a hoax. A lot of people think it's a giant hoax. The reason for this is, depending on who you ask, they'll have different answers. The popular answer is it's an attempt to make someone online, like, famous on the internet for some reason or another.
Right, okay. Sure, maybe.
Yeah. They think it's, some people, a prototype for an ARG, like I mentioned earlier, like an augmented reality game. These often show up using real websites as puzzles or decoding tests just to let people have fun, or sometimes, which we'll probably cover on this show eventually, some more potentially sinister reasons for an ARG, such as recruitment for organizations. Either way, I have a big issue with this being a hoax. Firstly, the posts under the website's names, Angel2-6, date back to 2005. That's a long time to be laying breadcrumbs. That's years. That's 5 years, to build this up. Secondly, the fact that this all got shut down the moment it got noticed is not how ARGs work.
Yes.
ARGs wait for hype.
Admit it.
Yeah, well,
they want it.
Or they unlock the next part. You know what I mean? Like, that's what hype does to ARGs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not deleting it. You know what I mean? Like, so
it makes no sense.
That's extremely suspicious. Another theory is, of course, that this isn't a hoax or a game, but simply a bunch of vets that communicate through an obscure medium to relive some weird Black Ops days, or just they don't trust conventional means of communication, which is, of course, possible.
Sure, I believe that there's those paranoid people. In
exactly.
America.
Yeah. And they're communicating through some porn hosting website instead of, like, just calling each other and speaking in code. But I personally do believe that Religion of Peace was or is a man in a chair for some kind of military organization who would connect free agents from jobs all around the world.
I think you're right. I really do. I think that that's way too convenient. That with everything that happened in Dubai, like, that's just and, like, obviously, like, this is one of those types of things too that, like, a mainstream media source, any mainstream media source, would rather push the lie that it's a hoax than admit it's true, because they don't want people to get scared. Because this is scary. This is genuinely kind of scary. Like, to know that people are freely on, like, and the thing that this sounds like too is, like, this organization is still around, because obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like, they're still doing stuff. So like I think it's the whole, like, it's a hoax thing is literally just for people's safety, but, like, in reality, it's definitely not. It's like, but I mean, look, that being said, hey guys, I think you're real. I don't care. Do you think? Because I'm scared of you, so fuck it.
Yeah, it's something that's it's so above us as people online talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a different world, and it's just like these things exist.
It's also
and
a pointless world. They don't have to. All this stuff doesn't have to happen. It's just basically ego and choice and money involved. So, it's really pathetic that we're still in 2022 doing stuff like this.
If you're a black ops soldier who gets out of the military, I'm sure so many of them get offers like this. Like, hey,
oh yeah,
I'll get you $4 million if you kill a dude in the desert. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and if you're good at what you do, it's like, okay. A lot of people say okay. I think a lot of people do.
I agree. I mean, it's like it's a skill that they've acquired. It's something that they're good at, and unlike one of the biggest problems with veterans is like finding work after military is like trying to find something to do. Like, so a lot of veterans they find programs. That's why like it's nice that in these days you can get like scholarships and programs to get to school and stuff, because like back in the day that wasn't as much of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, you leave the military and they'd be like, hey, here's your medals and a big spank on the ass and go back home. You know what I mean? Whereas these days,
go wash some dishes, pal. Like, like that's
like a fucking time bomb. You know what I mean? Like telling a veteran who's seen people die like to just go wash dishes. It's like
it's like the amount of people who are World War II vets who went back to being a dishwasher in New York City. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, so you were talking about the media pushing the hoax idea. I don't even think it's that. I think it's people pushing the hoax is the idea to feel safe themselves and think this world doesn't exist.
Sure.
I think people are just like, because again, the media doesn't know about the story. No one knows about the story. It's super like a minor thing. I was super surprised anyone brought this up to me. Like, I didn't think anyone would know what this is. Like, this is something I remember learning about from, which shout outs to my main source for this was Unresolved Mysteries podcast. They basically did all the work for me. I tried to do as much as I could because of that, to like look into other weird little things. But this is why I know about it, and I was surprised that anyone else did, because it's so like unknown.
This is my last thought on the media stuff too. Is like, this is stuff that could also very much be the stuff that media doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of stuff like that. It's not just necessarily military and violence. Just to give everybody an idea, like, mainstream media will often completely 100% ignore things that are actually very important. And like I can talk about like a kind of policy to give you guys a dumbed down simple example. There are policies, ideas that exist in the United States that basically are ignored because they don't want people to think about them. They don't want the general public to think about things like, and I'm not making a political statement, but I am saying that like things like Medicare for all, universal basic income, these are good policy ideas, quote unquote, that the mainstream media tried to ignore for a very long time because they didn't want those things to be festering in these citizens' heads. They wanted, pull up bootstraps and health insurance premiums. They wanted you to be thinking about those things a lot. So the fact that like over decades now there's been more push, now the mainstream media has no choice but to talk about these things. However, in a situation like this is something that's so buried still, it's so obscure, they no need to touch it. Whether or not it's true is irrelevant to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not even things that you're talking about, like universal basic income is a great example.
Right.
Like they've talked about it forever, but it would be one little article. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like, oh, what do you mean? We were reporting on that back in 1999. It's like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like a page 7 article. It's like a 30. You know what I mean? Like, they would be so buried. They always exist, but for the reason you're talking about. They don't make them important until it has to be, because exactly what you said.
Well, do you know what, like, Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech? That, like, people remember that part, obviously, like the first part of it. He goes on to talk about Medicare for all and universal basic income in that same exact speech. Like, it's like literally, like, he's like, I have a dream that we all are worth and have money.
Another great example is Eisenhower's final speech in the White House,
great one.
Where they cut off the tack where he's talking about how aliens are real.
Yeah.
Literally, he says it on mic at the end of the interview. It's just at the end of the speech, and it's been cut from everything. You can find it online, of course. People have it, but like all the media sources back then cut it live. When he started saying it, the radio stations cut it. Like, it's just like it's wild.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, it's like this is such an obscure online only kind of thing. That's like, again, it's all theory. Nothing's
exactly.
proven.
Completely unprovable. Like, there's nothing provable in it. It's just fun coincidences that lay in place and make for a fantastic story that I think is kind of obvious, but at the same time, like, I can't say it's true. I could never claim this is real. I can say
it's
I
also
think
one of those
is.
hindsight things too. Like hearing it all compacted into a nice bow like this, it almost seems like it's like, well, duh, there was that.
Yeah, 100%.
But I imagine in that time, like from the span of just 2005 to 2010, like
they were
again,
this was all like a 3-month period before it was when it was discovered and shut down.
Right.
So like that's what I was saying. Like I told it in a chronological order, like when they discovered these posts, but these were discovered at the end of it all. Everything was discovered at the end.
Another thing to consider too, and we're kind of used to it because we've existed on the internet basically our entire lives, but like I'm sure you remember, and a lot of people in chat remember because we're all of relative age here, like we all kind of like in the 90s and early 2000s, it was the Wild West. The internet was the fucking Wild West. It was not, there was no
we kind of talked about it at the beginning with like jailbait existing. Like Reddit, which is now known to be a very progressive site with a bunch of like progressive subreddits, and they like clamp down on non-progressive subreddits. Back then, there was a Nazi subreddit where people were talking about shit. You know what I mean? Completely unmoderated. It was the Wild West.
Stuff like 4chan, 8chan, 12chan, all the chans, like those all existed in prominence more. Like today, they still exist, but they're basically just the haven for the pedophiles.
Yeah, I think I said like they're creepy old pedophile corners of the internet that no one goes to except those creepy old pedophiles.
But back in the day when we were younger, it's like, again, it was so unregulated that you could make a website, just make a simple hosting website, and no one was going to go and be like, there's no like HTML checker, like regulator checker that's like, all right, all right, you want to make a website? All right, give me the HTML. All right, let me look at this for a little bit and then I'll get back to you. All right, you're approved. That doesn't happen. That still doesn't really happen.
No, it depends on who you talk to, but like,
sure.
If you, it's just, everything was very homemade. Homemade internet, and it was a different age. So there's another thing that I want to bring up, which is Religion of Peace. His posts. So back at the beginning, we talked about his posts where he claimed he was 70 years old. He said, which I didn't bring up, but he said that. So mathing out, that's wrong. Where he said he was 14 the Battle of Normandy. So he would be 79, which would be 80. So of course, possibly maybe an old man just lying about their age.
True.
But it seems like someone who was proud of being old. So you think he would say, I'm 80, because there's people like that. Especially men who get very proud of their old, especially vets too. Like, I fought, you know what I mean?
So, I do know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So you have a little expertise on that. So
yeah, I do.
Some people decided to submit his post writing to Uclassified. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
So this is a program. It's a free program. And what it does, it was made, I think, by Oxford students, and it analyzes text and tells you what kind of person wrote it. And it can basically determine gender and age and maybe even some other traits. And it's reported that they reported back that these texts are written by a male ages 35 to 50, likely with military service. So that's not even what the words. That's not. It doesn't read the words. It just reads how they're typed and like how they like where they put commas, where they put periods, stuff like that. So
I don't like being put in a box, so fuck that website.
Well, I think it's very true because you can kind of tell. Like having played a game like World of Warcraft for 15 years, you get an idea of what people are like when they're chatting to you.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even in League of Legends, like we were talking about that before.
And on Twitch,
like.
And on Twitch, the same thing. Like we see people chat and type. Like, sorry, you're profiling yourselves a lot of the time by the way you type. Like I can kind of make your personality out. So
every time we have like extra young people in, you can always tell a young person.
Yep, 100%.
Always tell a
like,
teenager.
Like they think they're not, but they are, and old people too, and us too. Like the way I type, I'm sure I fit into a box.
We're stereotyped.
I'm
a stereotype for sure.
So it's just like
I'm
this.
a millennial.
So classifying him as a 35 to 50-year-old also explains the fact that he's hosting a image website and made a website because that's ridiculous for an 80-year-old man. Like. Sure. So I think that makes a lot more sense that he's 35 to 50.
Okay. I'm with you there. I mean, and also too, because like this organization could have existed long before the internet as well. If this alleged organization exists at all. So it's also fair to believe that like there may have been an old man from World War II who was like that, and then he probably had a an apprentice who is that 35-year-old to 50-year-old, and it was like, it's the age of the internet.
Which is my next sentence that I wrote down, which is, I think Religion of Peace was a real old man, and he had an apprentice under the name of Angel 26.
You and I we talk too much.
Says literally, that's my theory. I think he never made a post. I think Angel 26 was trying to clean up his image online by typing differently through Religion of Peace, or maybe Religion of Peace was an old man who died and he was typing for him or something.
Sure, could be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was his keyboard because he couldn't use one or something.
Right.
Maybe it was the same person. I don't know. We don't know.
Sure.
It's weird. It's very possible the Reddit identity was killed on the fact of having, not like the person was killed, like the Reddit identity. They got rid of Religion of Peace because it was having too much attention drawn to it for what they're involved in. Because he was Reddit famous again. Like, he was a very outspoken Redditor back in the day where people wouldn't comment a lot.
Yeah.
And he was
that's
across
what you mentioned at the beginning, too.
Yeah, I mentioned that. He was across a bunch of subreddits, not just jailbait, but he was like commenting on stuff. So people knew who he was. So it's like, maybe they're like, you need to stop that because you're going to draw attention to like our website kind of thing.
And it did.
It did. Yeah, it did. So maybe that's what happened.
It makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're still operating on the internet.
Yeah, maybe they piloted a drone and hit some guy in Iran.
Maybe it's like S.H.I.E.L.D. and they have a giant floating fucking...
Man, if they were good guys, that'd be great. I would love to think that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So some final notes. Over at Unsolved Mysteries podcast, they uncovered an extra piece of this mystery after their show, I think, too. It was a kind of addendum.
Oh.
They found a UK military paper, which I also looked up and found, which is titled Intelligence and Peace Support Operations, Some Practical Concepts. Fascinating read, he said with heavy sarcasm. It is basically a technical manual on peacekeeping operations for the British military. Like, that's what it is, right? Okay. So there's one important thing in this, though, which is it covers a position that they have that is a trained officer with a broad background who could be called in quickly to deploy to a mission area and assist with peacekeeping operations. And this role...
Yo, this MI6, dog.
This role... No, this is a little less than MI6. This is like NATO. But this role is called the Military Intelligence Liaison Officer, shortened to Milo. So maybe. Maybe.
Again, this is all just weird shit and convenient. It's all very convenient.
Yes, right. That's what I thought. This is just a little too convenient of a thing. You're stretching too far, especially because it's British because they're American.
Well, but mentioned, yeah.
Well, no, wait. Let me say one more thing because something else gets thrown in here. There is a very common terminology in the UK military, which even has a Wikipedia page, which is when used to. It is what they say when there is a situation where they need a coordinating pulling effort, and I mean physically pulling, which is a 2-6 heave.
Huh.
So, Angel 2-6, Milo.
These are all convenient nicknames at the very least.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the point.
So, that's the point. Yeah. But
because, like, it's a very common thing to take something that's mildly irrelevant and, like, apply it to yourself because then it throws people off. Because you're right. Because, like, Milo does mean that thing in the British military. So, people would do what I just did and was like, that's got to be connected. And then they do that and then they get thrown off the trail. And they're like, this means nothing.
Yeah. So my thought is that maybe they either were part of NATO, because, Americans and British intermingle in NATO.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, Americans and Britain are the most, outside of Canada, British is our most joint operated nation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Americans and British serve together all the time. I know plenty of vets who have said they work with British in the field on both sides.
My old buddy from high school, he served in England and Germany for a little while.
Yeah, so it's just like we work together a lot. So it's possible that term was picked up through there. It's also possible that these were made intentionally to throw people off, like you said, by saying that you maybe throwing people into think they're UK based, or something like that. Like these names or they're just names that are still military that their group of military people could, understand, but not be obvious to an onlooker in America.
Right.
So they would use a different country's terms. Now, there was another later discovered thing in this case. A man who had killed himself had the online username Shade. Oh. And they killed themselves in 2015. And they were found dead with a bunch of like notes and stuff that were all heavily encrypted, including an iron key that went missing.
No way.
So the reason they know his name is Shade is he signed his suicide note under the name Shade. He left all his belongings, all his money and belongings to family members, except for some specific items which were sent to people that they didn't know who he knew, like why he knew these people. So people think that might be the Shade that we talked about earlier, which is like a perfect name for like a website operator for like a Black Ops like PMC, right? Yeah, like Shade will connect you. Like he's the guy you call to like get your passports.
Yeah,
like that's the guy. Yeah, he's the guy. You know, you see Shade to get your fake ID. That's like how it said. Like contact Shade. All those things said that. Like he was like the guy. Shade. And he was found shot himself in the head. Not mysterious at all. Like he had a suicide note in his handwriting. If he was a military vet too. He was a military vet. You know, it happens to these people a lot, unfortunately. Yes. So I don't think it was a mysterious death. I think he actually I tried to look into it as much as I could. I saw some people talk about the case, and they're like, "This doesn't seem like a kill." Like everyone's like, "This is not he wasn't killed. He killed himself."
Right.
So,
yeah.
But that could be the guy.
If that was the Shade too, like the Shade that they're referring to in all those emails, again, after a life of military service plus a life of PMCing, you know, I can imagine that is pretty stressful and yeah. Like there's only really one way that ends.
And there's another part to that is that he apparently left a lot of money behind for his family. Too much money.
Yeah.
So eyebrow raising money, but banks never questioned it. Kind of money.
Well, they don't care because as long as they get the money in their bank accounts, they can continue making their investments.
They also don't question it if it's being backed by the U.S. military. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of thing. Like, this is... Because that's like... We talk about these, like, private military companies and Black Ops stuff. But these... For a lot of people who don't know, there's an American private military company. I think they're called Black Talon Operations.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they're very prominent in the world of Black Ops and PMC stuff, and they are supplied by multiple U.S. military plants, so it's likely that they get hired by the military to do things the military can't legally do. So, like, that kind of thing, where you're pretty safe. It's a pretty safe job, especially if it's a desk job. Like, you have so much power backing your position that you're not going to get, like, arrested, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just, like, you're pretty, like, your money's safe, you're safe. It's just super dark and shady. So, it's hard to say, but, you know, that's the story. That's Lake City Quiet Pills.
This is absolutely fucking wild. I was not expecting, to be honest, I was expecting some, like, did the CIA drug an entire city or something again? Again. That's what we got to talk about is how they got neighborhoods addicted to crack. We could do that as
yeah, that's part of MK Ultra. And I've considered doing an MK Ultra thing. If I did that story, it would have to be with the greater MK Ultra. Because if that was an operation under that umbrella that they did, as well as hiring prostitutes to sleep with men and drug them with LSD, called Operation Midnight Climax. I mean, they're great at naming operations. I'll give them that.
Yeah, Midnight Climax is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a wild story. It kind of starts off as like, oh, we're Reddit, and these Reddit users being creepy. And then it's like, and then they were assassins.
Yeah. I was not ready for that. I was like, this guy's a creep, and he runs a porn website, and it's like Jailbait, which is gross and ugly and icky, and then they're killers. They're all gonna League of Assassins.
Yeah, like it's just a weird thing. And like I kind of mentioned, people got scared looking into it. They're like, I'm gonna stop.
Oh, like, yeah, I would have been probably part of that group. I've been like, nah, man, I like playing music too much. I'm just not. I don't know.
Like, this is a weird thing to get into. I got other
interests in life, you know.
Yeah. Like it's always you never know where things are gonna take you. And I think they were expecting some weird like they were trying to like bust a dude for being like a real pedophile. I saw that was one of the original goals. Like they were looking in the code for like actual child porn, and they found something very different.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that's probably that's exactly what would lead you to that. That's the biggest mistake is that you should have just gone with like big titted Asians or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that should have been their fucking cue instead of fucking,
again, that's that's another way to reason to kill off that persona that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Get rid of religion of peace, because stop it. You're being too egregious. People are gonna look into you.
Yeah.
So
exactly, and there was definitely I mean, hey man, the strongest emotions that humans can feel are love, rage, horny, and
yeah. And both the people that we one confirmed dead, the Shade possibility, again not connected for sure, but possibly, and then the death of the Milo character, if that's real. It seems like they both lived in very small, kind of squalor-y situations, yet had millions.
Yeah, which is
very common for military people, military vets. I think it takes you out of that need of material,
Yes, I think so. I think that's a big.
Yeah, and if you're doing something like this kind of work, you're making 7 figures.
Yeah.
8 figures maybe, and then you don't do anything with it because you just have it. And if you're comfortable spending $200 a month on rent in some downtown Missouri closet, you're comfortable, and then exactly. He said, Milo's belongings fit in the back of his trunk.
Yeah, so he had his computers, which was needed for work, and maybe he had a few things for sentimental reasons, and that was probably it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the rest was just trash. Oh. And so it's just
Yeah, I got a lot of trash. I got tons of trash. I was looking around my room. I'm like, I got tons of shit I don't need.
So yeah, are you now happy that you know what Lake City Quiet Pills are?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a little man. Now that we talked about it, is one of those assassins listening right now going, these two knuckleheads,
so close but missed the mark.
I like the cut of their jib. Maybe I'll listen to a Zelda episode.
I hope so. Please listen to us. We're great.
Yeah. Assassin group out there. I'm just gonna call you guys the 2 6s. Do you guys endorse Lorelords? You guys got a lot of money. Send us some.
Send us some money. We'll do it full time.
Send us a hush money.
Yeah. Not even hush money. I don't care. I'm not going to talk about you guys. Your story's great.
Yeah, and I'm too scared.
Yeah, this is good enough. It's a great internet mystery. I was very excited to put this one out.
This is fun. This is a very, very fun one. Wow, what a good one. Thank you for the wild ride. The last 3 weeks have been pretty wild. Yeah.
This is my kind of thing. This is my favorite topics to go into, these wild mysteries. I love Unsolved Mysteries. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Shout out to 2 sources this episode, which were Unresolved Mysteries podcast and the Chilluminati podcast, who both covered the story. They both did an excellent job. I took notes from both of their work. If you want to know more about it, again, I recommend you can find the whole assassination of the Hamas guy. It's all available online to watch. It's a 27-minute long video. It's just security camera footage going through. Some people on YouTube I watched also who went over greater detail about stuff. Then they mentioned they noticed that they found some people walked out and it looked like their eyes changed color because they put lenses in. These people were good. Yeah. They were
Jesus.
These were very professional operatives.
Yeah, no shit. Jesus Christ. The tennis players.
The tennis players kills me. It's so James Bond. That's so ridiculous. I said a perfect 2 white dudes dressed in tennis outfits speaking German in a lobby or something. You know what I mean?
But what's funny is
visiting Dubai.
But it's that seems so James Bond, and it almost makes it silly. But at the same time, it's yeah, but you probably would find 2 German tourists at a fucking
two rich white people in Dubai. That's where they go. Dubai is where you go to do questionable, lawless things while living high luxury.
Yeah.
Because it's an extremely rich place, with extremely wealthy. It's it's like seeing Manhattan in the Middle East, but they'll look the other way. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. Man, this is wild. This was a good one.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed listening to the story of Lake City Quiet Pills. Once again, my name's Atlas. Right. This is Pat.
I'm Pat. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye.